Hello, hello, salespreneurs. Super excited to be back on. I want to start off real quick today, though. I've been thinking about this for the last couple months because whenever you start something new, or for the example, you're going to go buy a blue car, everyone's asking you, or you start seeing blue cars everywhere, right? And so I started this podcast, and I've had friends and family the last 3 months just asking me, "Hey, how do you get started with this? How do you start a podcast?" And I think it's so easy because 10 years ago, you would have had to spend $10,000 on recording equipment, audio, and editing, and it's so hard. But really, if you want to start a podcast today, there's only three things you need. You need a good mic, Spotify for podcasters, and Riverside. Those are three things, and you can do it for $30 a month. Riverside's literally my favorite software that I've seen. In the last 7 or 8 months of using it, they have come out with so many new features, implementing AI, creating better short form content. You can distribute it to Spotify for podcasters, which gets it on Apple, Spotify. You can download it and put it on YouTube. And so if you're looking at starting something new, you want to try a podcast, there's a link for Riverside in the bottom. You can get started for free for up to 2 hours of recording a month. Or if you pay the $30, you can get 15 hours and a load of really cool tools. So I can't recommend it enough. If you're trying to get into short form content, or if you want to get into podcasting. So that being said, I'm really excited about my conversation today. I got Haris Halkic on. Haris, you're my first international guest.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah, all the way from Germany, right? Is that where you're
Right.
at?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Haris, I'm excited to have you on because I know you've been in B2B tech sales for over 5 years. For listeners, he runs a newsletter called Sales Daily, which got started as like a LinkedIn list where Haris finds different topics, whether it's like the best influencers to follow, or the best content, or prospecting, demos. And it's really helpful, I think, because it helps people find all the different content and then compare it apples to apples. What are the best resources? LinkedIn is really noisy, and his newsletter is helping people find the best stuff without having to comb through LinkedIn forever. So he started that 7 months ago. He's now over 3,000 subscribers on the newsletter. He's had millions of impressions on LinkedIn, and just barely left his sales job to do this content creation full time. So that being said, Haris, excited to have you on the show. For those who don't know you, maybe you can fill in some of the gaps, but I'd love to let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me once more. And for the intro as well. Basically, you covered everything. So I spent around 5 years in tech industry as an account executive at different companies, and discovered LinkedIn and LinkedIn, the LinkedIn sales community, and a lot of sales content from actual sellers being shared on LinkedIn in November last year, and also decided to start engaging and sharing myself. And yeah, so far it's been an amazing journey. I mean, LinkedIn helped me get my last few sales jobs, and it helped me also to quit the last one. So what I do with the Sales Daily newsletter basically is I curate the best sales content from LinkedIn, but also from other sources like podcasts. Also, I include something funny like a meme or funny video. And the whole idea is to give salespeople something that they can use in 45 minutes. They don't have to read a lot. It's a lot of technical information that they can apply immediately. And saves them a lot of time because they don't have to look for the best content themselves. So basically, I do the job, I do the curation, and the topic is always something like sometimes it's getting promoted, often it's better cold calling, prospecting on LinkedIn, things like that.
Yeah. Haris, I think that one of the appeals that you have on LinkedIn is that you're an account executive, or you were, and it's easier to relate to you. And I think you have more of maybe a humble personality. Like everything you write on LinkedIn, it just seems very friendly. Like you're just a nice guy. And so, you have some of the like sales leaders or sales influencers where they have big personalities, and it's almost like A-type, where it's like, I'm right, and I'm like very confident that I'm right. Whereas I feel like you come from more of a curious perspective of, hey, this is just what I see. let me put it in a format that is interesting for everybody else, which is super nice because it doesn't feel like you're pitching that this is the right way or this is the way that it has to be done. You're just taking other experts' opinions and putting it in a format that's way more digestible. Um, because yeah, I think LinkedIn is super noisy. It's super buggy. And so that's one of the things that I like about your newsletter is that, yeah, I want to see all the tips for my favorite influencers, but I don't want to have to sit through all the different ads or like having random people's feeds pop up where it's like, okay, I didn't really care about that. I just wanted to see some cold calling tips from Nick Sigelski or Armand Farouk uh, or like what Scott Lee's saying about solopreneurship, right? And so I think that that's an interesting thing. And so I guess I'm curious just to take it back to like why you got started. How'd you come up with this idea? Like what made you want to start writing these lists and stuff?
Yes, I always start from myself. What would I find useful as an account executive? So I also started with this target audience, I would say, trying to build something useful for account executives and other salespeople as well. And it started basically with the problem that there was so much great sales content on LinkedIn, but I had problems keeping up with it because you cannot be online all the time. And basically LinkedIn works like that if you're not online, if you miss something, basically it's gone. So you will not find it again unless you know you have your favorite creators or you know who wrote it. Then you have the option of saving it, and pretty soon you'll have hundreds of posts saved. Or you could do bookmarks or have a separate document where you copy and paste or use the links. I tried everything. And then I just said, okay, why not do it in public on LinkedIn? Because probably other people have the same issue and would like to follow up with the real advice, the technical stuff, and maybe sometimes also leave out the lunch and the vacation and this personal stuff, which is nice. But when you have a problem or something like a demo coming up, you really want those tips how to give better demos. And so the whole idea was to curate and collect those information, those posts that I think would be valuable for myself and other A's, and to collect them in one place and make it just easier to find them again also when you need something, like, because it's always a situation that you have. Sometimes you're starting a cold calling session, other times you want to know what top performers do differently, and then LinkedIn is just, the feed is basically your best friends or people you're engaging with, who you're following. It's not really structured in a way like that you can separate it by topics and similar. So yeah, it started out of necessity and basically a problem that I had.
Yeah. Well, and I like it. Even if you go on your website, you can scroll through and see the different topics. Like, oh, I want to learn about multi-threading or about all these different demos or how to level up your career. And you have all those different topics there so that people can go through and find the different types of advice. And you're really curating some solid resources. One thing I'm curious about as well, because like I started a newsletter. I think your newsletter kind of inspired mine, where I was like, hey, I actually love that Haris is able to send direct messages to his audience. I was like, I should probably be able to do that as well, because I write posts on LinkedIn, but I feel like the people that really care don't always see it. Whereas when you write a newsletter, people will get it and they're like, oh, like these are all of like the best posts, or this is what this person has found. And so I know there's a lot of different platforms that you can write on, from Substack to Beehive, and then there's ConvertKit, now known as Kit. I know that you use Beehive, but I'm curious if there's like a specific reason like why you chose that, because I feel like a lot of them are very similar, but I don't know why you chose Beehive.
Yeah, my favorites are Beehive and ConvertKit. Actually, I've worked with ConvertKit a few years ago, and I chose Beehive because it has this option to include, and I don't know, maybe ConvertKit has that too nowadays, but because it has this option to include paid version of the newsletter, because that's just an option that you give yourself if the newsletter is successful, how to monetize it. And it has the option to basically include advertisement with one click from the partner network that they're working on. So I really think this idea is very interesting, what they're building, that they're actually trying to attract a lot of brands and people who want to advertise in specific newsletters, and you as a creator can just apply, and sometimes they apply to you and send you a kind of request that they would like to advertise in that, and you just accept and include it directly in the newsletter. So that's really something new that I haven't seen so far. And yeah, I tried it with the free version and decided to stick to it. So pretty happy with it so far.
So do you know how it compares to Substack? Because that's the one that I use and I like it a lot. But I was curious because I feel like they're similar because you can do like sponsorships and stuff through Substack. Um, I'm curious though, like if you'd ever compared them apples to apples.
I haven't, because yeah, there's so many out there. I mean, you could probably build the same thing with Mailchimp and any other. It's
Yeah.
not that. It's not really the email provider, I think, that makes it successful or not. It's the content in the end and promotion of the whole thing, and kind of this relationship that you build with your readers. A lot of times people will talk about the best email subject lines, for example, or to get the best open rates and something like that. But they always kind of forget to mention that actually your name, besides the subject line, is much more important, because if I get a weekly email from Brian and I know Brian, I engage with his content or posts on LinkedIn, I don't really care about the subject line or the provider he's using. I just care about, okay, I know Brian, I know what he stands for, that he delivers some quality content, and I want to see what's inside the email. So I think, yeah, it's much more useful to think about these things and how to create content that resonates. But I'm not familiar with what they offer, so really can't tell you what's the best.
That's interesting about the name beside it, because I think of the same thing when I see your name pop up in my inbox. Even if I see it in like my promotions tab, I'm like, oh, like what is that? And so I go back and I go look at it because I see the name. I don't see the subject line on it. So, but I think I was like looking back, and it sounds like you have a bit of a background in email copywriting anyway.
Yes, that's right. I've worked as an account manager or kind of project manager at an email marketing agency before I got started in tech sales. Basically, I was kind of responsible for some campaigns. My main account was Mercedes-Benz, so we did a lot of internal newsletters, and also the main newsletter, the branding newsletter that goes out to everyone who registers for. Yeah, so there I learned some basics like having a checklist and go through it, and kind of proofreading and stuff. And obviously, ChatGPT makes a lot of it easier today. And I also learned that it's not really different from you or me starting a newsletter. It's just, yeah, different audience, and there's only so much you can do. Everybody has the same issues. There was also always the topic about open rates and is it enough? Will our client be happy with that? And yeah, I learned some things there. Also in online marketing, I have some experience there, but you always start also from scratch, and you need this fit for your audience, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess if there was somebody listening that wanted to start a newsletter, it sounds like the name's really important. But what are some like how do you look at your writing routine and how do you structure your emails to be the most efficient?
The newsletter for me, the Sales Daily newsletter, is an evolution basically of my LinkedIn posts, of the curations I've done there, and it's about adding another channel. So some people prefer LinkedIn, and others prefer to get it as an email, and just get it to their work email also oftentimes. So if I was to start a newsletter again, I would think more about traffic sources, how I want to grow it. Also, I would think about ways to first test with a few hundred people and see if I can get a few hundred people interested in this, and also try to get a lot of responses and feedback early on from people, what they like, what's missing, and of course look at things like open rate. I mean, if just you're starting and just 20% are opening it, then it's not, you have to change something. So it's more, I think it's better to start thinking about where can I get traffic, who is this for, what's the benefit of it, how do I add value to people's lives, to their businesses, to And also what's missing out there, because Sales Daily is kind of inspired also by Morning Brew and these type of newsletters, because I think there's a huge need for curation. People are just busy, everybody's scrolling, and you just sometimes want to get the best information without searching for it and get it in one place. And it takes a lot of work. So that's always an opportunity for someone. And you could do similar things, I guess, in marketing. You could do it with LinkedIn growth, and starting a newsletter there. So there are always these two types, either curation type or more personal type, or where you just basically write plain text email. Also works very well, but you have to decide first of all the format that you're comfortable with, who it is for, and of course, then choose the provider. But I would think more about traffic. How do you want to get traffic to your landing page, and how do you want to convert it? Because you'll need other things like some lead magnets, a free course, or interviews, whatever. But just because you started a newsletter, the world will probably not care that much. You will need the content strategy, and you will also need a strategy to get traffic to yours.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So focusing a lot on traffic, getting feedback, focusing on how you can provide value. I mean, those are essentially like what go into running a business. So that makes sense. I'm curious, you started the newsletter, and I feel like you decided to go all in on it pretty quick. I'm curious what things went into your decision of, hey, I think the Sales Daily thing can do well. What went into that decision of saying, hey, like I'm gonna leave my W-2 and try and like build this?
Well, it was the power of LinkedIn, I would say, and some brand collaborations that I already had during the time when I had my sales job. And I always had this dream of starting a side hustle or having my own business. And I saw here the opportunity also because I already had some success on LinkedIn. I had some interesting partnerships there. And the newsletter business is something that I also know, and that I'm very confident that it's highly scalable. It's also highly scalable as one person, as a solopreneur, because you're writing, you don't have to write more if it's to 1,000 people versus to 100,000 people. It always stays the same. You just have to promote more and build systems around it. Yeah, there are some things like getting first sponsorings for the newsletter, for my LinkedIn posts, also some collaborations, I would say, behind the scenes, like with recruiting agencies, where it's based on certain commission that I get if I bring them new business, and these kind of partnerships that you normally don't promote on LinkedIn. But once you are able to attract people by providing value, you have all kinds of options, I believe. So I just saw kind of the power of LinkedIn, I would say, and what's possible, not only for others, but this time also for me, by doing more of what I was already doing. And that gave me the confidence to give it a try.
That's awesome. I think that it's been interesting to watch, and you've definitely had a lot of support from the people you've been able to collaborate with, and the audience. So I'm curious too, on the monetization side, have you been able to make enough that it's like replaced your income, or like on the path to replacing your income from your normal W-2?
Yes. Yeah, so far I'm still in this transitional phase that it's not where my sales job was, so it's not replacing that income 100%, but it's already at a point where I can live from it. So where it's basically my full-time income. And definitely there are also few things during the next weeks that I share, that I announce a few new partnerships that have the potential to get me there. But so far it's replacing my full-time income, and I really enjoy it because you have so much freedom and you can do what you really enjoy. It's I never hated sales. I liked also my sales jobs, and And yeah, you're almost like self-employed person in sales. Often you have your territory,
Hmm.
you have your leads, and you're pretty free to do whatever it takes to get to the goal. But it's still different. You choose which meetings you take, which partnerships you yeah, you just want to work on. And so far, it's an amazing journey.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm sure that's something that went to your decision too. Like, if you were able to make enough to live off of through the newsletter, then then like how much more could you make if you were able to dedicate all your time to it? And
Yes.
even for like a lot of the listeners, I mean, you and I were talking about it before the show, but I mean, you live in Germany. It's like 7 o'clock right now. A lot of your content creation is coming after hours, and you're engaging with a US based audience, which is like a different thing because the rest of us, it's happening throughout the day, but for you, it was happening at the end of your workday, which I'm sure was really nice to be like, I'm going to focus on closing deals at the beginning of the day, but then in the evening, I can post when the US is awake.
Yes, I thought it was a great idea. My wife didn't, so I spent a few nights with commenting and posting on LinkedIn. But I really enjoyed, and also I enjoy uh, um, communicating, engaging with the US audience. I would say even more than with the European audience, because there's another spirit. I say, yeah, Americans have that is just much more. I would say, so yeah, positive, just more. It's much more positive.
Yeah, it's super
And
interesting because I don't know much about like the European SaaS uh industry, like what tech is like over there. I recently went to the SaaS stock event for my company, and SaaS stock is basically SaaSter in Europe, where it's like this conference for all the tech companies that they go to and learn. And so it was really cool to see them host an event in Texas and see some collaboration from the European and the US tech companies. But uh, that's interesting to get feedback. I feel like in the US, there's a lot of collaboration between the tech companies as well. And uh, a lot of people are just like really excited and ambitious and stuff like that. Um, what do you notice any other differences like between the differences in culture of the tech companies across the ocean?
and culture, well, selling and kind of the sales approach is very similar. It's not the same. I mean, some cold call openers, for example, that you would use in the US, you can, especially in the German. I've worked on the German speaking market, so Germany, Switzerland, Austria is sometimes much more conservative, much more direct. So asking them how are you or something like won't work. So things like that in the sales approach. Um, and yeah, I think they tend to be, Europeans tend to be just much more critical and kind of questioning things. While I think there are always many ways to reach the goal, many answers to the same questions, and that's something that you mentioned already. I'm not someone who's trying to teach the one method or prove that I'm always right. I think there's always so many ways to book that meeting, to approach a call or demo, and it's so great to be able to learn from different perspectives, different people, whether it's an BDR that started yesterday or VP of sales. I don't really care, and that's something of that's so valuable on LinkedIn also, that everybody has the same voice and the same opportunity to share what's actually working for them.
Yeah, that's. I think it's good to see all the different voices on there through LinkedIn. I think it's a super powerful tool, um, and yeah, but I also think that it's cool what you're able to do through the newsletter, where you're able to synthesize a lot of these different topics. And I think it's cool that you've found a way to monetize enough to like replace your income so that you can do this full time. Um, Harris, I've appreciated having you on the show. I guess before I let you go, I'm curious if you could just give us like one last piece of advice for anyone out there that's considering starting a newsletter, like, or just like trying something. Because I know that you're big on just going out and trying things, even if it's scary. Like, maybe if somebody's on the edge of trying something new, curious what your advice would be for them.
Yes, so probably most of the people listening to this will be in sales or in some sales related areas. So I would definitely start with LinkedIn, start engaging there, because everyone in sales is on LinkedIn. They have to be. And it's a great place to start. Whether you want to build a coaching business or a newsletter or anything, because it's just still underused. And I have a list, because I needed to create all these curation posts. And they're just I don't even think there are 1,000 people in the sales community posting daily, posting consistently quality content. So when you think about it, LinkedIn has 1 billion users. It's nothing. So there should be much more people, much more salespeople engaging there, building their personal brands. And you can build everything from once you just known, once you stand for something. And also, of course, have your network, have these contacts on LinkedIn that are so valuable, and have the traffic. With traffic, you can also build all kinds of online businesses. So I would definitely start engaging on LinkedIn, and start thinking about your positioning, what you can bring to other people, what you can teach them, what you can share from your life, from your experiences. And if it's specifically a newsletter business that you want to start, I mean, learn a lot. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. Having the opportunity to listen to interviews from Alex Lieberman and others who founded amazing newsletter businesses is just very helpful. And of course, it's just about starting, like we talked about before. I mean, you just have to start somewhere. You start with the first subscriber, with the first reader, and you grow from there. And find also something that works for you, that you can do, whether it's a daily newsletter, a weekly newsletter, something that you like, also a topic that you enjoy working with daily. If it's something that you're not familiar with, then yeah, I would suggest starting something about entrepreneurship, about sales, about communication, if you're in sales, that you already can share information and some experience that you had. So, but it's all about starting. I mean, you have to start somewhere, and don't always look at those numbers from people who have done this for years. Otherwise, you won't start there.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Harris.